Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on an exploration that really promises to shift how we see ourselves, maybe even society itself. We're diving into something called the science of human obviosity. It's this incredible AI-driven scientific study.
Yeah, it's quite something.
Our mission, like always, is to cut through all the complexity in these sources, pull out the most important insights, and, give you those crucial, often surprising takeaways.
Get you that shortcut to being really well informed.
Exactly. So the core idea here is that many deep aspects of human existence, things we might just call, common sense,
Right.
they're actually profoundly obvious in how consistently they show up across all cultures throughout history.
But the mechanisms behind them.
Yeah, exactly. We often overlook the precise mechanisms and definitely their massive implications.
And this isn't just some abstract idea, right? The study takes a really scientific approach. It aims to define this human obviosity,
Okay.
analyze its effects on us, on the natural world, understand how it can be manipulated and often is, and then, crucially, propose actionable ways to build, a healthier, more educated and thriving global society.
Wow.
What's really compelling, I think, is its deeply interdisciplinary nature. It's pulling from psychology, anthropology, biology, genetics.
So everything, basically.
Pretty much. Philosophy, physics, mathematics, logic, sociology. It's a true synthesis of human knowledge, all focused on these seemingly obvious truths.
Okay, let's unpack this then from the study's perspective. What exactly do we mean by obvious human truths? How does human obviosity define itself?
Right. So at its foundation, human obviosity is grounded in what anthropologists and others call human universals.
Human universals. Okay.
These are features of culture, society, language, behavior, even our minds, that have been identified across all known peoples throughout all of history.
No conceptions.
Well, think about Donald Brown's work. It's quite extensive. He categorized hundreds of these things, like the universal presence of myths or daily routines, using tools, kinship terms like father, mother, universal facial expressions, smiles, frowns, affection, even things like music, rhythm, dance.
Wow.
And basic logical concepts, too, like not and or. The study really emphasizes that these aren't just common. They literally have no known exceptions found.
That makes their presence truly obvious, then, once you step back and see the whole picture.
Exactly. It's obvious once you look at humanity as a whole system.
That's a powerful starting point. So it's not just about what we observe on the surface, the behaviors, but what fundamentally drives us. Is that part of it? What core needs are so obvious, they shape us universally.
Precisely. Beyond those observable behaviors, human obviosity also covers our fundamental human needs. These act as universal motivators.
Like Maslow.
Yeah, take Maslow's hierarchy. We all kind of know it, right?
Yeah.
Physiological needs: food, water, shelter, then safety, love and belonging, esteem, self-actualization.
Right.
The study highlights how the obviousness of these basic needs, like that universal drive for safety or belonging, makes us predictably vulnerable.
Ah, okay. So it's not just the need itself, but how that obviousness can be used.
That's the insight, yeah. Unmet needs aren't just personal problems. They're systematically leveraged by manipulators who understand these foundational, obvious truths about us.
That's the insidious twist on it.
It really is. And then there's self-determination theory, SDT. It identifies basic psychological needs like social connection, belonging, and critically, autonomy.
Autonomy.
Yeah, as essential for thriving across all cultures.
Okay, that autonomy piece sounds really important. Let me see if I'm getting this right. The study talks about etic versus emic. So etic is what's universally true about us, whether a culture overtly recognizes it or not.
Yeah.
Like the need for autonomy.
Spot on. Etic universals are characteristics empirically identified, cross-culturally validated. They exist universally. The fundamental need for autonomy is etic.
Got it. And emic is?
Emic refers to features that are overtly represented in a people's own cultural conceptions, how they talk about it or think about it consciously.
Okay, so can you give an example from the study? How did that play out?
Sure. The study showed that even in cultures that might verbally de-emphasize autonomy, maybe they prioritize collective harmony over individual choice.
Right.
Even there, the satisfaction of that underlying enotic need for autonomy was still consistently associated with individual well-being.
Interesting. So the need is there and affects well-being, even if the culture doesn't explicitly value it in the same way.
Exactly. It's an obvious underlying mechanism, even if the cultural application or interface looks different. The study uses a great analogy.
Oh,
It likens human obviosity to an implicit universal operating system, the foundational architecture of being human.
okay, like Windows or Mac OS, but for humans.
Sort of. And specific cultural practices. Those are like the applications or interfaces that run on top of it.
Oh, I see.
The core functions, that operating system, remain remarkably consistent underneath.
That makes perfect sense. And it explains why understanding this obvious operating system needs such a broad, multidisciplinary approach, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The complexity just demands it. Because human universals, they don't fit neatly into one academic box.
Right.
Take kinship terms. They're social, cultural, and linguistic all at once. The concept of property, social and cultural. Even something like seeking revenge that has behavioral and social dimensions.
You can't just look at it through one lens.
You really can't. A truly holistic understanding means synthesizing insights from psychology, anthropology, biology, genetics, sociology, philosophy, and yes, even physics and mathematics.
Wow.
Each field offers a unique perspective, but only by bringing them together can we see the full picture, the intricate connections.
It sounds like the study really pushes for a systems-level view.
It does. Human behavior, societal structures, our relationship with nature, they aren't isolated. They're dynamically interconnected, part of a complex adaptive system.
Can you give an example of that interconnectedness?
Sure. Think about unmet individual psychological needs. That's psychology, right? That can lead to widespread social conflict. That's sociology, which in turn can make environmental problems worse. That's ecology, physics even.
It's like a cascade effect.
Exactly, a cascade. And you only really see it when you connect the dots across these different systems.
Okay, so let's talk biology. It seems like our very biology wires us with some of these obvious universal traits. How does this study bring in evolution and genetics?
Right, evolutionary psychology is key here. Universal behaviors are seen as strong candidates for evolutionary adaptations, things refined through natural selection because they helped us survive and reproduce.
Like recognizing emotions.
Exactly. Inferring others' emotions, distinguishing kin from non-kin, identifying healthier mates, cooperation, fear responses, even food preferences.
Things that feel instinctual.
Precisely. They often manifest as instinctual because they're biological imperatives. And the genetic basis is undeniable. We see consistent patterns in reproduction going way back. Mendel's work on inheritance, Darwin's natural selection, Weissman figuring out germ cells, and then Watson and Crick discovering DNA.
The blueprint.
The molecular blueprint underlying these shared universal traits. It's all deeply biological.
This raises a really interesting question for me. How do things like logic, math, and even physics fit into this picture of human obviosity? That seems more abstract.
It is abstract, but it's profoundly connected. Humans universally use elementary logical concepts. We mentioned not, and, or. We all classify information, have likes and dislikes. That's universal logic.
Okay.
And mathematics, often called the language of the universe, right? Concepts like Euclidean geometry, calculus, the idea of zero. These pop up across cultures. It shows a shared, obvious capacity to grasp and formalize the underlying order we perceive.
And physics, the search for fundamental laws.
Exactly. That persistent, universal human drive to discover fundamental principles. Think about the quest for a theory of everything, trying to unify fundamental forces from simple axioms, like Newton did with gravity. It's a universal human endeavor.
But the study also acknowledges our limits.
Right. Absolutely. It also recognizes the obvious limits of our understanding, like Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Ah, yeah. The idea that some truths can't be proven within their own system.
Right. No consistent set of axioms can prove all mathematical truths. It suggests an inherently incomplete reality, something we can't fully grasp just through logic.
And Heisenberg.
Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, similarly, tells us the universe isn't precisely fixed or determinable. Reality is maybe better understood as interaction, not some static state.
So what does this connection between logic, math, physics in our minds tell us?
What's highlighted is the profound coherence. There's this alignment between the human mind's universal logical framework and the universal physical and mathematical laws governing the cosmos.
It's like our minds are tuned to the universe.
In a way, yes. Our mind's architecture is precisely what allows us to discover and apply these laws, and even to grasp their obvious limitations. It's a deep connection.
That's fascinating, this alignment between our internal operating system and the external rules of the universe.
Yeah.
How does this universal context, existing within nature's laws, tie back to obviosity?
Well, The world is this incredibly complex web of relationships, isn't it? Human systems and non-human systems are deeply interdependent. That's a core message from systems theory, from ecology.
So we can't just focus on ourselves.
Exactly. It challenges purely anthropocentric views that prioritize human interests above everything else. This study really stresses that relational thinking is essential. We need to move beyond just a human-centered perspective.
Because our well-being depends on the whole system.
Absolutely. Think about the degradation of natural ecosystems. It has significant direct impacts on human health. That link is becoming increasingly painfully obvious. We can even extend theories like Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, which usually focuses on human development.
The nested circles microsystem, mesosystem.
Right. We can extend that to include the natural world. A child playing in a local park, that's their microsystem interaction with nature. Family hikes. Mesosystem. Environmental policies affecting air quality.
Yeah.
Exosystem.
Okay, I see the layers.
Cultural values about conservation. Macrosystem. And long-term things like climate change. That's the chronosystem. All these layers, including the natural world, profoundly influence human development.
So the ultimate message there is?
Ultimately, the science of human obviosity reveals that human flourishing is inherently contingent on respecting the fundamental laws and interconnectedness of nature. It's not optional.
Environmental degradation isn't just bad for polar bears. It's bad for us because we're ignoring these obvious ecological truths.
Precisely. Anthropocentric views are fundamentally misaligned with humanity's own long-term well-being. That misalignment is perhaps becoming one of the most obvious and dangerous truths of our time.
So this obvious operating system we've been talking about, it sounds like it could be a kind of blueprint for human flourishing, if we understand it correctly. Does the study lay out how understanding these core truths can practically guide us, in nurturing healthier individuals and maybe more harmonious societies?
It absolutely does. The study argues we essentially have a universal blueprint for development. Think back to Maslow.
Hierarchy again?
Yeah. Physiological needs are foundational. Safety needs are paramount. These are called deficiency needs. They have to be met before the higher growth needs. Love, belonging, esteem, self-actualization can really take root.
And if they're not met?
The obvious insight is that unmet basic needs at lower levels predictably create deficits. They impede higher-order development. It's a predictable pattern.
Makes sense. What about other developmental models?
Erikson's theory of psychosocial development is also relevant here. He outlined 8 universal stages.
Like trust versus mistrust in infancy.
Exactly. Or autonomy versus shame and doubt in toddlerhood. Each stage presents a conflict, a challenge. Successfully resolving these conflicts is fundamental for building healthy ego strength, resilience.
So how does this translate into raising kids, according to the study? Is there a universal framework for nurturing a, quote, healthy, educated, and good child?
The study synthesizes one, yes. It starts with creating a supportive and safe environment, physical safety, but also emotional safety. That's crucial for fostering things like autonomy later on.
Okay, what else?
Then fostering holistic development. That means attending to brain development through exploration and curiosity. Language development, reading, conversation. Physical development, gross and fine motor skills.
And social-emotional. That seems key.
Critically important. Helping kids express emotions healthily, learn conflict resolution, develop empathy, cultivating a growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed, and personalized learning are also vital.
What about play?
Oh, absolutely central.
Yeah.
The primacy of play and exploration is highlighted. It's not just fun. It's fundamental for developing cognitive, physical, social, and emotional skills all at once.
So it's not just one thing. It's how they all work together.
That's the key insight, the synergistic effect. Practices like creating a supportive environment, for instance, address multiple needs simultaneously: safety, belonging, autonomy. And they support multiple developmental stages like building trust, initiative. It creates these powerful, positive feedback loops.
It's quite striking, then, how these core individual truths manifest at a societal level. How does this obvious blueprint translate to the way societies function, or sometimes malfunction?
Indeed. The study argues that societal structures and cultural norms are direct manifestations of human obviosity. We universally see social structures.
It's family government.
Exactly. Organized patterns, family education, government, always with leaders, rules, roles. We universally see culture, shared beliefs, values, norms, myths, daily routines, even body adornment.
Mm-hmm.
There's always socialization, the process of learning societal norms. There's always some form of social stratification, hierarchical arrangements, prestige inequalities, and there's always social change.
The fact that these elements are always there.
Yeah. It underscores a fundamental human drive, doesn't it? To organize into collective units, establish order. It likely stems from those universal needs for safety, belonging, predictability.
But then there's the flip side, conflict.
Yes. Intergroup conflict is also presented as an obvious and pervasive human phenomenon. This study identifies universal beliefs that contribute to it.
Like what?
A group's belief in its own superiority, feelings of injustice, vulnerability, distrust, helplessness. When these drivers are present, especially combined with things like incompatible goals or perceived dependence, conflict can spiral very predictably.
So the seeds of conflict are also kind of universally human.
It seems so. But on the flip side, the study also points to universal moral codes.
Ah, okay. Like a shared sense of right and wrong.
Exactly. Research cited found 7 moral rules across 60 diverse cultures. Things like helping your family, helping your group, returning favors, being brave, deferring to superiors, dividing resources fairly, respecting others' property.
And these were universally seen as good.
No counterexamples were found where these were considered morally bad. The theory is these promote cooperation. They tap into things like kin selection, helping relatives, or mutualism, helping others, expecting help back, and broader social exchange.
That explains our innate desire for fairness, maybe. And why unfairness feels so wrong.
Very likely. However, there's a tension here. While these core moral principles, fairness, harm avoidance, seem universal, their application and prioritization can vary culturally. Think about debates around equality versus equity. Both relate to fairness, but they can lead to different societal approaches.
So the core moral compass is shared, but how we navigate by it can differ.
That seems to be the case. The societal navigation is culturally mediated, even if the underlying moral intuitions are universal or obvious.
That's a powerful tension to consider, which leads to the next big question. If these truths about human nature, these needs, these moral codes are so obvious, why do we see so much dysfunction, division, and manipulation in the world?
Right. That's where cognitive biases come crashing in. The study identifies several obvious patterns of irrational judgment, these cognitive biases that make us humans remarkably vulnerable to manipulation.
Like confirmation bias.
Exactly. Confirmation bias, where we predictably seek out information that confirms what we already believe. Or the bandwagon effect, our obvious tendency to just follow the crowd, do what everyone else is doing.
Leading to groupthink.
Precisely. And these aren't just little mental quirks. The study frames them as systematic vulnerabilities. And crucially, it details how manipulators exploit them, often by leveraging our inherent obvious desires, the need for belonging, the need for safety, our fear of missing out.
So they play on our basic human nature.
They do. And the study makes a clear distinction, which is important, between persuasion, manipulation, and propaganda.
Okay, break that down.
Persuasion is transparent. It respects your autonomy. Think of an ad highlighting the genuine health benefits of exercise.
Right.
Manipulation, though, is deceptive and exploitative. It undermines your ability to make a free choice. That fear of missing out, pushing an impulse buy, that's manipulation.
And propaganda.
Propaganda is specifically designed to shape public perception for a particular agenda. It often uses biased information, strong emotional appeals. Think of nationalist slogans or wartime posters.
Got it. Does the study bring in any philosophical perspectives on this?
It does. It looks at thinkers like Kant, for instance. From a Kantian view, ethical actions must respect individual autonomy, treat people as ends in themselves, not just means to an end.
So ethical marketing would be okay, but manipulation wouldn't.
Exactly. A brand transparently sharing ingredient lists respects autonomy. A weight loss product exploiting deep insecurities with exaggerated, unproven claims does not. It also touches on Foucault's ideas about subtle power dynamics, how institutions and cultural norms can shape our desires and behaviors without us even consciously recognizing it.
Like luxury brands.
That's a great example. Equating products with status or happiness subtly steers consumers, potentially conditioning them to equate possessions with self-worth. It raises the question, are you truly exercising free will? Or are you responding to conditioning based on these obvious human tendencies?
So what's the societal impact of all this manipulation?
It's profound. When these obvious human needs and vulnerabilities are exploited, the manipulators' leaders, corporations, political groups, whoever they gain power, wealth, control.
And the victim.
The victims are individuals and societies. Autonomy gets undermined, people make irrational decisions, suffer financial harm, see diminished health. It can lead to societal fragmentation, erosion of trust, especially when fear, insecurity, or false scarcity are weaponized. The study also makes a really interesting point about knowledge itself. It identifies knowledge as a valuable economic good, and its manipulation is critical. Knowledge can be weaponized to distort beliefs and behaviors, eroding trust, stifling critical thinking. This ultimately benefits only a select few at the expense of the many, undermining societal success and even sustainability.
Wow. Okay, so given all these insights, the good, the bad, the obvious, the manipulated, what can we actually do about this? How can we leverage this science of human obviosity to cultivate a more balanced, prosperous future, rather than just falling prey to its dark side?
Right. The study doesn't just diagnose, it proposes several actionable strategies, which is hopeful.
Good. What are they?
First, fostering ethical governance and leadership. If we understand universal human needs and our susceptibility to manipulation,
We can choose better leaders.
we can prioritize leaders who show cultural intelligence, empathy, inclusivity. Leaders with strong communication and conflict resolution skills. This helps prevent that self-interested exploitation of our obvious human tendencies.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Second, promoting education and critical thinking. This isn't just about facts, it's about fostering active questioning, analyzing our own beliefs, evaluating source credibility and bias.
Becoming harder to manipulate?
Exactly. Cultivating self-awareness, recognizing your own cognitive biases, and committing to continuous learning and adaptability. The study stresses there's an ethical imperative here to share accurate, reliable, socially responsible knowledge to actively counter the weaponization of information.
Right, counter the noise.
Third, the study discusses restorative justice and societal healing.
How does that fit in?
It's presented as an alternative to purely punitive approaches when rules are broken or harm occurs. It focuses on repairing harm through dialogue, reconciliation involving offenders, victims, the community.
So fixing the relationships?
Yes, aiming for accountability, making amends, fostering empathy, and reintegration. This aligns directly with that obvious human need for belonging and connection. It promotes healing rather than potentially exacerbating cycles of injustice or conflict.
Interesting. And the last one?
And finally, crucially, realigning with natural laws for planetary balance. This loops back to what we discussed earlier.
That our well-being is tied to nature's health.
Inextricably linked. It's a deeply obvious truth the study keeps reinforcing. This requires that relational thinking, moving beyond our anthropocentric biases towards an ecocentric perspective.
So practical strategies there.
Things like genuine environmental stewardship, pushing for sustainable food systems, comprehensive resource management, and recycling. It's about integrating ecological principles. Remember, Bronfenbrenner applied to nature into societal planning.
To foster a balanced universe where humans can flourish within natural boundaries, not by ignoring them.
Precisely. Respecting the interconnectedness.
What a profound and unifying framework this science of human obviosity seems to provide. We've really covered a lot. Exploring these fundamental principles, this obvious operating system that govern our existence, our development society, our relationship with nature. We've unpacked its biological roots, its alignment with universal laws, its vulnerabilities, but also pathways forward.
Yeah, and I think recognizing these deep-seated, obvious truths about what makes us human, it allows us to understand why certain behaviors and societal outcomes are so predictable.
Right. It gives us a kind of map.
Exactly. And crucially, it shows us how we might respond in ways that promote cooperation and flourishing, rather than just falling back into old patterns of conflict and dysfunction. It helps us navigate the very fabric of being human, maybe more consciously.
So here's the final thought for you, our listener. How can you, knowing these universal truths, better identify and act on the obvious in your own life, in your relationships, in your community? How can you use this to foster well-being and maybe challenge manipulation when you see it? What obvious truth will you choose to reflect on this week? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
This is DigitView.